What's up, guys? Today we are going to be talking about motor mounts, specifically the motor mounts on the Jeep. Well, a motor mount's purpose is to isolate the engine from the frame of the vehicle. And when you accelerate and drive and whatnot, the motor mount holds the engine in place, but it makes sure that all the vibrations don't transfer into the frame and into the body of the vehicle and more or less shake your teeth out of your head. Well, this one I noticed, like I mentioned before, the motor mounts were questionable. Well, the other day when we got done with the trying to remember what video it was. Maybe the wheel and tire one. When I took it out to drive, it moved, but I was getting a clunking sound, so I investigated a little further. Couldn't really find anything under here, and then when I was looking, I noticed that this was disconnected. So I plugged it back on, squeezed the clamp, and drove it down the street, and it did it again. So come to find out is that the motor is moving too much. The mounts aren't holding it in place, and when that happens, you can get things like that going on. So today we're going to be replacing the motor mounts in it. The ones for this look like this. Basically, this guy bolts to the engine. This is the engine, and then a bolt from the frame goes through and it holds it in place. Well, there's three of them. There's a driver, a passenger, and a transmission one. This is the passenger, this is the driver, and then the transmission one's in the box. So I kind of set everything up. Haven't jacked anything up yet, but when you're changing the motor mounts, usually you have to support the bottom of the engine, because when you pull the mount out, depending on how many you have, you know, the weight's going to be sitting on the remaining mount. In this case, there's only two, so if I pull one out, the engine's going to want to cock sideways to the direction that the mount's missing. So you want to put the jack under the engine. Problem is you don't want to put a metal jack pad on any part of the engine, really. So I have the piece of wood that I'm going to put under the bottom of the oil pan. I'm going to jack it up to support it. So in this case, I already moved this out of the way so you guys can see, but here's the engine mount right here. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It has here's a bolt here, and then I think there's a bolt on the back side, and then the one that goes through the frame. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray these bolts with PB Blaster, and then I'm gonna go ahead and it's gonna be a little interesting because this exhaust is right under it. So I'm gonna try to support the engine best I can, but I'll show you guys how I'm gonna do it. So I'll go ahead and soak these bolts, and I'll be right back with you. Okay. Now there's some weight on the underneath the engine, or I'm sorry, now that the jack's underneath the engine, I'm gonna go ahead and try to take this out. Okay, now this mount has nuts welded onto the back of the mount itself, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal on this one. You don't have to put a wrench on the back of it or whatnot, which would make it kind of a pain in the rear. So should use the little electric ratchet, but it's actually charging right now. So let's see. That one's broke loose. Oh, that can't be an 18. It feels too sloppy. Guess it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish breaking these loose, and I'll come back with you. There's one on the back side too, so we have to be mindful of that as well. All right, well, we got it out. So as you can see, it's gone. The mount's out. It was kind of sneaky the way they did this one. There's a bolt on the back that you really can't get out easily because there's a nut on the back, but what they did is they gave you a place to slip your 11/16. I'll show you that in a minute, but here's what I'm talking about with the mounts. This is the one that came out. You can see it's almost completely ripped free. Well, actually it is. So this is one of the reasons the motor shook so much. So you have that, and here's the new one. So it moves a little, but not as much as that, obviously. So yeah, that's what a bad motor mount looks like. Yeah, I should not be able to do that. So obviously can't on this one, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this guy in. So to do that, these go on this side over here, so we'll do this. Line it up. You know what, actually, I'll spray these bolts with PB. There we go. Should allow it to go in. Like I told you guys when I was doing the brake video, I'm not a glove person, but these gloves that I'm trying out are really nice. I really like them. I mean, I've caught them on corners of the metal down here and everything, and I haven't had a problem, so I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm gonna be quite a bit off down here on this mount, so I'm gonna have to jack it up down here to get it in. The other mount allowed it to sag quite a bit. So I'm gonna put these bolts in and get this mount in, and I'll show you how I'm gonna lock it up and put it all together. All right, well, I got the rear one in, the one back there that's kind of a pain in the butt. Then I got these two front ones left. Then the tricky part's gonna be getting this main bolt back in, because the motor, when the mounts go bad, it lets the motor sag also, besides letting it move around. So I'm gonna have to get kind of clever with the jack. Let's see if this thing doesn't really want to match up, but it's gonna have to. Sometimes the holes kind of get misaligned. So not gonna bore you guys with me tightening a bunch of bolts, so I'll come back when when I get everything snugged up. All right, well, I got the mount bolted up, but as you can see, the hole's not lining up, and I have the jack doing work, but I have to lift this corner of the engine, so I'm gonna try this. I mean, I'm gonna put it under it, twist it a little bit, and it should bring it up. All I have to do is bring it up high enough to put the bolt in, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm gonna put my safety glasses on. I mean, it could hypothetically shoot out, but there's not too much pressure on it, so it shouldn't. So, see if I can push it up through here. Yeah, I'll do that. So, put it there. Make sure it's somewhat straight. And I love this little jack. It's from a F-150. Ah, come on. I don't know. I just don't like having everything at an angle. I mean, it shouldn't be too big of a problem, but still questionable. It's going, but put my glasses on just in case. Would have much rather used a 2x4, but problem with the glasses is all they do is fog up. I need to get a nice pair that doesn't. It's almost there. Let me go around back and try to put it in. All right, that side's in. So half of the battle's done. Oh yeah, if I just give it a good tap, it'll probably go in. A couple more turns. Well, we're through. So go ahead and let the jack down. And we're in on that one. So that's how you at least change the driver's mount. Now we'll do the passenger. I'm gonna put that bolt back in, stay tuned. All right, now we're on to the passenger side. So gonna take this main bolt out first. You can see the front of the engine's quite high compared to the back. That's because the mount in the back's bad, really bad. We're gonna do that too. So let's get this guy out. Okay, and then the bolts are one's here and one's here, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull those out and I'll get back with you. All right, well, this one's out too. So it's not as bad, but still bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and install the new one. Same thing, take the bolts out, put them in, and I'll record part of it. All right, so I got the bolts in on this mount. I got one of the nuts, but I'm not gonna tighten them up until I get the rear bolt lined up. So same thing, just crank, 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 crank. Let's see if it's lined up. Sure is. Now I can take the weight off of it. There we go. Front two are done, more or less. I'm gonna drop this and put the nuts on, and then we'll go to the middle one, the trans one. So let me go ahead and snug these up. Same size, 18 mil, so I'm just gonna put the nut back on here, and then there's a couple nuts I gotta put there, so pretty self-explanatory. I'm not gonna bore you with it, and then we'll go to the center one. Alrighty, so the front two are done. Now it's this one's turn. So as you can see, this one's slightly different. I don't think this will actually work. Unless, no, they sent me the wrong one. Never mind. So that sucks. But anyway, it is what it is. It's not gonna work. So let me see if I can go ahead and get the right one. All right, well, I'm back. It is the next day, and I got the right mount. Ironically enough, Or I'm gonna say, strangely enough, this mount is actually listed for a 2-wheel drive Jeep. The other one that was here yesterday is listed for a 4-go frickin' figure. So anyway, we're gonna change this out. It's a little darker, I realize that. I'm indoors today because it is raining. So I've worked in the driveway before when it's pouring, and I really feel like getting wet today. So we're gonna do a couple things while we're here today. So it's a little dark. I'm gonna go get my ghetto shop light. This is my ghetto shop light. At one point it was a light that would hang from the ceiling of the garage, but since repurposed it, since I have the permanent ones, these are LED tubes, so you can drop crap on them and they won't shatter. So yeah, this helps quite a bit. So we'll just leave it like that. Oh yeah, much better. So I'm not gonna bore you guys with me taking all these out, so I'll remove it and I'll get back with you. All right, so we got the bolts out. So we're gonna go ahead and take these guys off. You can see how blown out this frickin' mount is. And there's only 2 bolts in it. Go figure. I'm gonna take these blocks out so they don't fall on my face. Wow. That is what a failed transmission mount looks like. I should not be able to do that. Wow. Note to self, that's really sharp. Yeah, I need to figure out what's leaking down here. It's either the front pump, the front input shaft seal on the transmission, or it's the rear main seal on the engine. It's probably the rear main seal on the engine. Oh yeah, look at that. Completely original too. Still has the Chrysler stamp on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this nut and bolt out, and I'll be right back. Trick I'll show you is, if you have access to both sides, if you have the nut and the bolt, you can actually unscrew it twice as fast, because normally you do the ratchet like this, but you can swing this side too. So you can literally go, and it unscrews it twice as quick, saving you some time if you don't have an electric ratchet or something. So this one's off. So remember how it came out. Let's make a mark where the front is. Right there. And the new one, let's see. I don't think they're identical, so it has to go one way. Let's see. That looks like how it should go. So pull this out. Pull that out. And I'm gonna go ahead and put it back together. I'll go ahead and tighten it, and I'll put the bracket back up, and then I'll be back with you. I don't feel the need to record me turning the ratchet a bunch and bore you guys, so anyway, see you in a minute. Just wanted to show you guys something. This is actually really funny. This is my 13mm that fell into the frame when I was doing the lift, and no joke, it's right here. And it just came out. I haven't seen it for a long time, so that's a freaking come up. I just thought I'd share that with you. I'm gonna finish putting this cross member back on and I'll be back. All right, well, all 4 of these are tight. I left these guys kind of loose so that I'd have some wiggle room, but there are only 2 bolts in here, so I got these other ones. I'll go ahead and put them in because it should have freaking 4 and it only had 2, so we anytime I see hardware missing, I try to replace it. When I put all this together, I didn't quite tighten this one up all the way because I wanted to give it a little bit of room so it can decide where it wants to sit. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that on now. Finish tightening it. As you can see, I don't have much wiggle room at all, but still enough to tighten it. All right. So that's done. So the two front mounts and this mount are done. So now when I drive this thing, the motor shouldn't cock sideways and disconnect the accordion and do all sorts of other fun stuff. So anyway, it's gonna be very similar on most of your other cars. You know, some will have a transfer case mount, this one doesn't. You know, my old Bronco had one for the transmission, then it had a little one on the side that would stop the twisting motion. Should be good. So like I said, follow along. Let me know if you want to see any other projects done. We might have another edition at some point. I don't know. I'm kind of working on something, so I'll keep you guys posted. But for the time being, we're good. Got to get this drive shaft done and some of the other stuff, but on to the next thing.